Ella
This
Sola
place
had
looks
always kept a
spotless.
low
Great work.
profile,
Thank you,
working the
sir.
night
Just
shift.
doing my job.
Well,
As
it's
a
appreciated.
janitor in
Have
one
a
of
good
New
night.
York City's most prestigious
It's a pleasure
skyscrapers.
to meet you.
Wasn't
The pleasure is all
glamorous,
mine.
but it
I'm
paid
looking
the
forward to
bills
our
and kept
partnership.
her
As am
independent.
I.
By the time she finished her day job at a small cafe, she was already exhausted. Yet she never complained. The gleaming offices, polished marble floors, and sparkling glass windows were a world apart from her small apartment in Queens. Most nights she moved through the building like a shadow, unseen and unnoticed, a ghost in a city of millionaires. On one particularly quiet Thursday evening, Ella pushed her mop along the lobby's vast marble floor. The lights from the towering chandelier above reflected off the polished surfaces, casting soft golden patterns across the room. She hummed a soft tune under her breath, trying to drown out the distant sounds of traffic and construction from the streets below. Her routine was familiar: sweep, mop dust, empty trash bins, and repeat. Sometimes it felt monotonous, but it was honest work, and she prided herself on doing it well. Suddenly the lobby doors opened with a quiet whoosh. A man walked in briskly, his polished shoes tapping lightly against the marble. He was tall, impeccably dressed in a tailored navy suit, and carried an air of confidence that immediately distinguished him from the other late-night stragglers. She occasionally saw his attention, however, wasn't on the grandeur of the lobby or the artworks on the walls. It landed on her. He hesitated for a moment, scanning her from head to toe, and then approached. "I'm so sorry," he said, his voice smooth, almost musical. "I thought you were someone else." Ella's heart skipped a beat. She looked up, startled. Her mop froze in midair. Oh no. "That's okay," she stammered. Unsure of what he meant, he smiled, a gentle, genuine smile that made the creases at the corners of his eyes more pronounced. "You don't mind if I say you're very composed. Most people wouldn't handle the night shift so gracefully." Ella felt her cheeks flush. Compliments were rare in her world, and even rarer from someone who clearly moved in a completely different one. "Thank you," she replied softly, fumbling to set them up aside. "I'm Lucas," he continued, extending his hand. "I don't usually notice people outside my office, but there's something about you." Ella hesitated, but then shook his hand. "Ella, nice to meet you." It was a simple exchange, almost mundane in its words, but something about it felt electric. Lucas lingered for a moment, observing her quietly, as if trying to memorize the way she carried herself, her posture, her expression, the way she smiled politely yet cautiously. Ella, in turn, couldn't help but notice the warmth behind his eyes, a curiosity that seemed genuine, not performative. That brief encounter, only a few minutes long, would mark the beginning of a story neither of them had expected. A janitor invisible most nights, and a billionaire surrounded by people vying for his attention. Two worlds destined to collide, and in that collision both of them would discover feelings and possibilities that went far beyond wealth or status, changing the course of their lives forever. The next morning, Ella woke to the usual sounds of New York car horns blaring, distant sirens, and the faint hum of the subway beneath her apartment. But her mind wasn't on her routine today. It kept drifting back to Lucas, the sharply dressed man, who had smiled at her so genuinely in the lobby. She tried to shake the thoughts away, telling herself it was just a brief encounter. Nothing more after all. Billionaires didn't notice janitors, or so she thought by late afternoon. She was halfway through her day at the cafe when her phone buzzed with a message. She blinked in surprise. It was from an unknown number. "Ella, this is Lucas. I hope this isn't too forward, but I'd love to meet for coffee. I could use some advice on office arrangements." "Nothing official, just your perspective." Ella's heart raced. She stared at the screen, unsure whether to respond. The logical part of her mind whispered caution. Who was he really? Why would a man like him want to talk to her? But curiosity and a strange sense of trust pushed her fingers to type a reply. "Sure, I can meet you when and where." Within an hour they met at a small coffee shop, tucked between two office buildings in Midtown Manhattan. Lucas arrived first, already scanning the tables. As Ella entered, she felt nervous, tugging at the sleeves of her cardigan. Lucas looked up and smiled warmly when he saw her, and for a moment her tension melted. "Ella," he said, standing to greet her, "thank you for coming. I promise it's just a casual chat." They ordered coffee and found a quiet corner, away from the usual city bustle. Lucas asked her questions about the offices she cleaned, the layouts, the spots that needed more attention, the details most people overlooked. Ella answered honestly, her voice growing steadier as she realized he genuinely valued her input. As the conversation drifted, Lucas began to ask about her life, her favorite places in the city, her dreams, and even the little things she enjoyed doing on weekends. Ella hesitated at first, but soon she found herself laughing freely, feeling a connection she hadn't experienced in years. He wasn't asking because he needed to impress anyone. He asked because he genuinely wanted to know her. Walking back toward the subway, they paused in front of a small park. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows on the pavement, and Lucas looked at her with an intensity that made her stomach flutter. "You're different," he said quietly. "Most people, they try to be someone they're not. But you're real, and I like that." Ella felt her cheeks warm, unsure how to respond in a city. Of millions, she had never been seen like this. Not by a stranger. Certainly not by someone who seemed so out of her world. As they said goodbye, Lucas handed her a card. "If you ever want to talk or just walk through the city, call me." Ella watched him walk away. The bustling streets suddenly quieter. In her mind, she clutched the card, realizing that their chance encounter had become something more, something that could grow into friendship, or maybe even something deeper. And in that moment, the world felt bigger, brighter and full of possibilities she had never dared to imagine. Over the next few weeks, Ella and Lucas began to see each other more often. At first, their meetings were casual coffee breaks, short walks through Central Park, even a visit to a small art exhibit downtown. But with each conversation, the distance between their worlds seemed to shrink. Lucas wasn't just a billionaire. He was surprisingly down to earth, curious about life outside his high-rise office and luxury penthouses. And Ella, in turn, found herself opening up in ways she hadn't with anyone before. She laughed freely around him, shared small anecdotes from her past, and even admitted dreams she had long tucked away. Their bond grew quietly but steadily, unnoticed by the bustling city around them. Ella began to feel a sense of belonging that she had never experienced. In the corporate towers she cleaned, she didn't care about the luxury cars, expensive restaurants, or designer suits. Those things felt irrelevant, compared to the simple moments she shared with Lucas, sitting on a park bench, watching the sunset, or walking down cobblestone streets, her hand brushing against his. But not everyone in Lucas's life was pleased. Gossip spread quickly among his inner circle, some whispering that his fascination with the janitor was unusual or inappropriate. Invitations to exclusive events came with subtle warnings, as if reminding Lucas of the boundaries he should respect. Yet Lucas ignored the murmurs. He was drawn to Ella's authenticity, her laughter, and the way she didn't treat him like a commodity. One chilly evening, they found themselves atop a rooftop garden in Midtown Manhattan, the city lights shimmering like scattered jewels beneath them. Ella shivered slightly in the autumn breeze, and Lucas instinctively draped his coat over her shoulders. She looked up at him, surprised by the tenderness in his gesture. "You know," Lucas said softly, his gaze fixed on the skyline, "I've never felt this way about anyone, not in years. You make me see the world differently." Ella's heart fluttered, a mix of fear and exhilaration. "I don't know if I'm ready for this," she admitted, her voice trembling slightly. "I mean, you live in a world I can barely imagine, and I don't want to lose myself trying to fit in." Lucas reached out, taking her hand in his. "I don't want you to change, Ella. I want you exactly as you are. That's why this feels real. That's why I can't ignore it." For a long moment they stood there in silence, the city buzzing quietly beneath them. Then slowly Ella let herself lean closer, feeling a warmth she hadn't known was possible. It wasn't about wealth, status, or appearances. It was about connection, honesty, and trust. As the evening drew to a close, Lucas escorted her back to her apartment. Before she went inside, he paused, looking down at her with a mixture of admiration and longing. "Whatever happens," he said, "I want us to explore this. No rules, no judgments, just us." Ella nodded, holding the moment in her chest like a fragile treasure. In a city that often felt cold and indifferent, she had found someone who truly saw her. And in doing so, she had discovered a new courage within herself. Their story was far from simple, but for the first time, both of them felt the thrilling possibility of something extraordinary. The night of the gala arrived, and Ella couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and nervousness. Lucas had insisted she attend as his guest, assuring her that she didn't need to change who she was, only to dress elegantly, something that made her blush with self-consciousness. Standing in front of her small mirror, she smoothed the fabric of her simple, yet elegant dress and ran her fingers through her hair. Trying not to overthink it was a world she had only glimpsed from afar. Sparkling chandeliers, opulent decor, and men and women dressed in designer clothing, speaking in hushed tones that carried an air of wealth and influence. When Lucas arrived to escort her, he looked effortlessly handsome in a tailored tuxedo, his familiar smile warming her nerves. He offered his hand and Ella took it, feeling a sense of pride and comfort in the gesture. The other guests whispered as they entered, some skeptical, some curious, about why a billionaire's gaze was fixed on a woman who clearly didn't belong in their glittering circles. But Lucas didn't flinch. He held her hand as if anchoring her to a world that often felt foreign and intimidating. They moved through the gala together, laughing softly at Lucas's subtle jokes and sharing quiet conversations. Amidst the clinking of champagne glasses and murmurs of the elite, Ella felt a strange thrill. She was part of this world for the first time, yet she wasn't afraid Lucas's presence grounded her, reminding her that authenticity mattered more than wealth or status. As the evening drew to a close, Lucas led her to the rooftop terrace. The city sprawled beneath them, a sea of twinkling lights stretching to the horizon. The cool night breeze carried the scent of autumn leaves and distant street food, and for a moment, the world felt suspended, hushed in reverence to the cityscape and the magic of the night. Lucas turned to her, his expression soft but intense. "Ella," he said, voice slow and steady. "I've never felt this way before. You've changed everything for me. Your honesty, your heart, it's impossible not to love you." Ella's breath caught in her throat. Tears welled up in her eyes, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming realization that someone she had never imagined could truly care for her. Did Lucas throw, "I never thought I'd be part of your world, but being with you, it feels right." He smiled, brushing a stray strand of hair from her face. "It's not about our worlds, Ella. It's about us, and I want us, no matter what anyone else thinks." In that moment, the city around them faded into a soft blur. They leaned closer, and their lips met in a gentle, lingering kiss, one that held promise, love, and the triumph of something unexpected yet undeniable. The skyscrapers, the gala, the whispers of others, all of it became irrelevant. As they pulled back slightly, their foreheads touching, Ella realized that life had a way of surprising you. The janitor and the billionaire, two people from opposite worlds, had found something extraordinary in each other. It wasn't wealth or status that mattered. It was connection, trust, and the courage to see beyond appearances. And on that rooftop, overlooking the glittering expanse of Manhattan, Ella and Lucas began the next chapter of their story together, fearless and in love.